with my dad's best friend and now I'm pregnant. Should I tell my dad? I met my dad's best friend when I was 15 years old. Growing up, he would come to my house every now and then. A few years ago, my dad became a really big fan of the gym. Him and his best friend started going and they actually got really fit. Around this time, I turned 21 years old and I would start going out with my friends a lot. My dad would always make an effort to pick me up after I would go party with my friends. So anytime I went to a club or a bar, my dad would pretty much go pick me up without fail. But sometimes he couldn't and he would send his best friend instead. A little backstory on my dad's best friend. After he and my dad got in shape, he turned into a fitness model. Models for clothing brands and a lot of sports gear. He actually never got married himself. Instead, he dates a lot of women. And before you all go crazy, most of them are his age. I'm sure you're all wondering he's 39 years old. So like I said, my dad would sometimes send him to pick me up from clubs and stuff. The first time he went to pick me up, I actually didn't even recognize him. He had just finished going on a date and he looked amazing. When I got in his Tesla with him, I just couldn't stop staring at him. He asked me what was wrong and I said, "Wow, you look so handsome." Then he laughed and said, "Oh, I clean up well." After that, he picked me up a few more times. On the 5th night that he picked me up, I was totally wasted. When I got in his car, I was telling him that I really wanted to hook up with somebody. I grabbed his thigh and he told me that I needed to find somebody my own age. Part 2 is up. Hooked up with my dad's best friend and now I'm pregnant. Should I tell my dad? When I grabbed his thigh, he told me that I needed to look for somebody my own age. I started to laugh and asked why. That's when he said that he would never want to do anything to jeopardize his relationship with my dad and that I was way too young for him. I told him my dad had nothing to do with it and that we were both consenting adults. Then all he said was, "Nice try." Of course, I felt rejected, but I knew that he was attracted to me too. So I knew that all I had to do was wait. A few weeks later, my dad had a get together with some of his friends. And of course, his best friend was there too. And this time he looked so good. So I decided to make another move. While my dad was in the backyard with all his friends, I asked his best friend to come with me to the kitchen. As soon as we stepped into the kitchen, he grabbed my hand and told me that I needed to calm down. I told him there was nothing wrong with us liking each other. And then he kissed me. And oh my god, he's such a good kisser. But the kiss only lasted like 3 seconds. He went back outside and didn't talk to me for the rest of the night. I was hooked at that point. A few weeks later, I went out with some friends and told my dad that I needed him to pick me up. But of course, I knew my dad was on a business trip. So guess who he sends? His best friend. But when he came to pick me up, I decided to act like nothing had happened. When I got in the car, we didn't say a word to each other. He just started driving me home. Once we were a block away from my house, he parked his car. Suddenly, he starts kissing me and it was so amazing. And we ended up hooking up in his car that night. Part 3 is up. Hooked up with my dad's best friend and now I'm pregnant. Should I tell my dad? After the night we hooked up in his car, we didn't speak for about 2 weeks. But of course I played it cool. I just pretended like I didn't care. My mom and dad's anniversary was a few days at this point, so my siblings and I decided to have a party for them. And of course we invited my dad's best friend. I knew I had to look absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I wore a beautiful lavender silk dress, which fit like a glove. The festivities were amazing and my parents had a great time. And the entire night my dad's best friend just kept staring at me. But like I said, I was playing hard to get. We had a live band and catering for the whole event, so everyone was out on the dance floor. Seeing as everyone was distracted, I decided to go to the kitchen because I knew that he would follow me. And he did. Once he came into the kitchen, he started kissing me. Then we went inside the pantry and hooked up again. Before we went back to the party, he told me he had really serious feelings for me. And I told him I did too. That's when he told me that we should be honest with my parents and tell them the truth. Because he really wanted a relationship with me. A few days later, we told my parents while at dinner. My dad absolutely lost it. I managed to calm him down and we all talked. Been a few weeks now and he's come to accept it a little more. But now I've missed my period. The test came out positive and I haven't told anybody. I'm so scared. What should I do? Story time about how I got caught hooking up with my stepson. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My husband actually cheated on his wife with me. I started working at his company when I was 18. We started an affair and I knew it was wrong, but at the time I was very broke. He offered me a wealthy lifestyle and believe it or not, we fell in love. So when he and I got married, I was still 18. He was much older than me. He was 42. Everyone in town, of course, started hating me because I broke up the family. His wife couldn't even see my face. My husband already had 2 kids when we got married. One was 12, one was 15. So they were much closer in age to me than he was. The kids and I got along super well. I was their cool stepmom and we had a lot of fun. When I turned 20, the oldest boy came to live with us. And I think you already know what happens. My husband was always traveling for work. That means my stepson and I would be home alone most of the time. One night we decided to watch a movie and before I knew it, we were making out on the couch. From then, we basically started an affair behind my husband's back. Part 2 is up. Part 2 about how I got caught hooking up with my stepson. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So like I said, my husband was always traveling for work. So my stepson and I would be alone in the house a lot. One night we were watching a movie and it just happened. After that, we couldn't get enough of each other. He even started skipping class so that he could spend more time with me. We basically turned into boyfriend and girlfriend when my husband wasn't there. When my husband would come home from his work trips, we would pretend like everything was normal. One day after my husband got back from one of his work trips, he found one of his son's socks in our bed. He asked me how it got there, but I told him it probably got stuck in there while I was washing the sheets. A few months passed by and my stepson and I are still hooking up. This is when I realized that I hadn't gotten my period in a few months. My period was always irregular, so I didn't think anything of it. My stepson went to the pharmacy to get me a pregnancy test. It came out positive. But the big problem is that my husband can't have children anymore. How was I going to explain this to my husband when he couldn't have kids? Part 3 is up. Part 3 about how I got caught hooking up with my stepson. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Instagram. My stepson and I take the pregnancy test and it turns out it was positive. Well, I told my stepson that his dad wasn't able to have kids anymore. That's when he really flipped out. Then he tells me we should just tell his dad the truth. I told him let's not do anything until we actually confirm that I'm pregnant. We go to the doctor the next day and it turns out I'm not pregnant. But this made me realize that we needed to end the affair. Once we got home, I told him we needed to break things off. He begged me not to and we went to his bedroom. Not even 2 minutes later, his mother walks in. She catches us on his bed. She nearly has a heart attack, calls his dad and tells him everything. She took him out of the house and told me never to see him again. When my husband came back from his trip, he made me promise not to see my stepson again. I told him we should get a divorce, but he said no. Then he confessed to me that he's been having an affair too. Now he doesn't even let me leave the house anymore. I want a divorce. What should I do?
Story time about how my boyfriend broke up with me to marry my mother. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Yes, my boyfriend actually did marry my mom. A little backstory on him. He and I had been dating for 6 months. We decided we wanted to move in together, but neither of us had a job. So we ended up moving in with my mother. A little backstory on my mom. Her and I never got along when I was growing up. I mean, it would get to the point where we would throw hands. Every single week she had a new boyfriend. Most of the time her boyfriends would come live with us and she would pay for everything. She even asked me to get a job so that I could help support her and her boyfriend. I started working at a restaurant. And yeah, I helped her pay for bills. I would even buy her boyfriend his beer. When I got accepted into college, I decided I would move out. After that, I barely spoke to my mom. Fast forward to when my boyfriend and I move in with her. She would wear lingerie around the house and constantly flirt with my boyfriend. I had to tell her on several occasions to cover up and just leave him alone. But here's the thing, it never bothered my boyfriend. In fact, he would flirt back. I thought he was just joking. Until a few months passed and he breaks up with me. Part 2 is up.
Part 2 of how my boyfriend broke up with me to marry my mother. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So like I said in part 1, we moved into my mom's house and she was wearing lingerie all the time. And she would constantly flirt with my boyfriend. My boyfriend was having a really hard time finding a job, but luckily I found a job. So I started working as a personal assistant. The problem is that as a personal assistant, you have to be on call almost 24/7. So I was usually never home, and sometimes when I would get home, I'd have to go right back out. This allowed for my mom and my boyfriend to spend a lot of time together by themselves. I would come home and they would be watching movies on the couch together. My mom would always cook him dinner, and then I started finding out stuff. For example, I found out they went to the movies together and they didn't invite me. I only found out because my boyfriend used our joint bank account to pay for the tickets. Sometimes they would order food for themselves and not even offer me any. And they would have beach days. They were spending way too much time together. At first I thought this was good because it meant they got along, but the more my mom dressed provocatively, the more I realized she was trying to seduce him. Then my boyfriend breaks up with me and tells me that I should move out because him and my mom fell in love. Part 3 of how my boyfriend broke up with me to marry my mother. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So one day my boyfriend breaks up with me and tells me that I should move out. When I asked him why, he said that him and my mother fell in love. But since I was already suspecting something, it didn't really surprise me. But of course I was still devastated. That's when he asked me if I could move out that same night. Mind you, I don't have any money or even a place to go to. That's when I run over to my mom's room and guess what? She had locked herself inside. The coward didn't even want to face her own daughter. She told me that the best thing for everyone was for me to move out and that she knew I could get back up on my feet. So I grabbed some of my stuff and I went over to my best friend's house. My best friend invited me to live with her, thank God. A few weeks later, my mom invites me to her wedding with my boyfriend. Or ex, I should say. Last I heard, she's doing OnlyFans, and my ex is living off of her. I have a better job, I'm thriving, and have my own apartment. Story time about how I got bullied my last year of high school by the most popular girl. Okay, so this is my story time. A lot of you requested one, but I'm also at the airport, so sorry for any noise. So most of my high school years were spent in Nicaragua, except for my last year of high school. You see, I booked a show in Miami, so I had to move to the US. I was also doing modeling, commercials, and a lot of radio. I enrolled in the local high school, and it was like literally culture shock for me. I had never experienced an American high school, American parties, or even like actually mingled with American kids. I was really shocked to see how like adult they were. For example, boys and girls were doing adult things. I was constantly being invited to parties where people were drinking, but I never actually went. So the most popular girl in school decided to befriend me in quotation marks. By the way, there were so many times where I spent lunch in the bathroom like Caddy from Mean Girls. It was like Mean Girls, but real life. So this popular girl, she was also a model, and we kind of bonded over that. But behind my back, she had a bet to see which boy would take me to prom. She wanted to see how far this boy could get with me, if you know what I mean. Part 2 might not be up, sorry. Part 2 of how I got bullied by the most popular girl in school. This is my story time. So this popular girl who befriended me had a bet with boys to see which one would take me to prom. Specifically because she wanted to see how far they would get with me on prom night, if you know what I mean. I kept saying no to every single boy. Because I was the new girl, I was constantly getting hit on, but a lot of these boys had girlfriends. Well, since I said no to every single boy, this mean girl decided to print out flyers of the show that I was in. So basically the poster of the show. And when I got to school the next day, there were so many posters of me on the walls, on the floor, with a lot of things drawn on my face. They were even in the boys' locker room. Then someone made up the rumor that I did that, because supposedly I wanted everyone to know that I was a working actress. I was really embarrassed, but at the same time, I kind of thought it was funny, and this really upset the popular girl.
So she decided to take it a step further. She invited me to her house one day, and because I thought she was my friend, I decided to go. She cooked me pasta and we talked for a while. Then 2 boys show up. She told me one of them would be my prom date. Part 3 of how I got bullied by the most popular girl in school. This is my story, by the way. So I'm at the popular girl's house, and suddenly 2 boys show up and she says one of them was my date. That's when I told her that I did not want to date for prom. And then the boy asked to speak to me. I talked to him and I told him that I definitely did not want to go on a date with him and that I didn't even know him. That's when he told me that my friend had set everything up, and she told him that I liked him a lot. Well, I told him that that was not true, and I basically went home. A few days later, she started a rumor saying that I was totally in love with her and that I forced her to kiss me. Yeah, she's crazy. That's when people started calling me horrible names. But the joke's on her because I was so used to getting bullied in Nicaragua. After school one day, she comes up to me and starts telling me why she doesn't like me. She was so angry she started to cry. She said that she was the pretty girl and that she was the model in school. I literally just walked away from her. I went to prom with no date, which was so fun. I graduated and then I kept working. Guess who slid into my DMs a few weeks ago asking to hang out? That's right, the popular girl. I think she must have seen my TikTok or something. Should I actually go out with her and tell her what I think? Or should I just leave her on red? You guys decide.
Am I wrong for no longer bringing dinner for my wife after she claimed I never cook? I work at a nice restaurant as a cook, and every day when I get off from work, I always cook dinner for my wife and our 2 kids, 8 male and 6 female, at the restaurant before coming home. The only time I don't cook for them are on the weekends when I'm off, and that's when my wife does the cooking. We usually trade off who makes breakfast and lunch for the kids every other day, but for the week, I'm always the one bringing home dinner. Weekends, we sometimes get together with friends and they come over to the house. My wife usually cooks and I set the table and clean afterwards. One of her friends, Stacy, asked how come I never do any of the cooking and is it always on my wife all the time making meals for the kids, especially when I'm a cook myself. Instead of correcting her, she sort of laughed and went along with making jokes about, you know how it is. And Stacy laughed because her ex-husband was the same way. And then sort of ripped on me in a joking way how I better bug up before I become an ex too. My wife just said, well, let's see if he actually listens and starts cooking for once, joking about all the time I spend in the kitchen at work but won't do the same at home. It really pissed me off. I'm not the husband that just doesn't do anything after I'm home from work. I cook food for her and the kids at work, and on top of that, I make separate dishes for each of them. What she wants and what the kids want. All that after standing on my feet all day. We talked about it once they left because I don't appreciate being told I'm not doing something she knows for a fact I do. She didn't want to apologize for it because it was all just to be a funny joke. Even after telling her about how it hurt my feelings being put down like that. My wife said she felt like she had to go along with the joke so there wouldn't be any awkward vibes. But I said fine, if she can't apologize for something that was mean, just so she could laugh along with her friends, then I won't keep doing something she already claims I don't do. She's mad that I'm refusing to feed her over what happened instead of letting it go, but I can't help but feel mad about being made fun of like that when I'm busting my ass to provide for my family and still making sure they have food on the table every evening. She just thinks I'm an asshole for how I'm reacting when she's already tired at the end of the day, but still having to make food for herself. So, am I the asshole? Am I wrong for calling my sister's husband useless? My 17 female, sister 34 female called me saying that her work had an emergency and she needed to get there ASAP and needed me to watch her kids because no one else can. I rushed over there just to find her husband locked in his game room playing video games. I asked her why she called me over if he was home and she said he didn't want to babysit because it was his only day off. Sister left and I started hanging with the kids. I was changing the baby's diaper and the other kids wanted a snack. I told them to ask their dad to make it for them because the baby had a blowout and it was going to take me a while to clean him up. Well, their dad sent them back upstairs and told them to ask me again. After cleaning the baby up, I made the kids a snack and their dad came out to eat and told me not to let the kids interrupt him on his day off. By the way, he works part-time from home 6 days a week. I kind of snapped at him and told him it was my day off too and that he's a useless fucking father and husband if his wife has to rely on her teenage sister rather than her own husband. He started telling me I was disrespectful and didn't understand how hard parenting is. And I told him he clearly doesn't understand how hard it is either since he considers parenting his own children babysitting. He ended up kicking me out and apparently my sister was forced to come home because he told her she needed to figure it out since I'm her sister. I feel like I may have been the asshole because my sister is mad at me, her husband is mad at me, my mom is mad at me for causing drama, but my dad thinks it's funny and agrees with me. I definitely didn't need to call him names, but I just hate this guy so much. We have argued about things in the past as well, so we already don't have a great relationship. My sister is saying I need to apologize to him and he is threatening to never let me in the kids' lives if I keep disrespecting him. So, am I the asshole here? For everyone that has asked, no, he does not take care of the kids normally. My sister takes them to daycare during the day and then picks them up on her way home. She is the breadwinner and primary caretaker. Also, I got a few questions of, does she pay you? Not exactly, but she will randomly take me on expensive shopping sprees and will regularly buy things from my Amazon wishlist instead.
I'm 43 and have a 22-year-old daughter. All my daughter's life, she struggled with mental health issues. She has ADHD, bipolar, and borderline personality disorder. If I'm being honest, I never really understood a lot of my daughter's disorders. I've always approached mental illness as something you just bury deep down. And as a single mother, I've tried to do my best, but I know that I'm not perfect. Well, recently, my daughter asked if I go to one of her therapy sessions with her, and I only agreed to it because she seemed super excited about it. When we got there, her therapist first asked me how I was raised to think about mental health. I said I wasn't raised to think about mental health at all. She then said that she guessed that. It seemed kind of snarky, but I ignored it. She then asked about my family's history with addiction and mental issues. I denied any, and then she started to list all the things that my daughter told her and asked if they were a lie. They weren't a lie, but I never saw any of these things as big issues. She then began to explain to me BPD is a trauma response. She explained it can be caused by many things, but by me invalidating her emotions so much like I was invalidating my own had a part to play in it. She then tried to tell me ways that I can cope with my own trauma so that I can help my daughter cope with hers. After listening to her spew absolute garbage for 30 minutes, I finally got up and told her that she was a fucking quack and didn't know anything that she was talking about. I just stormed out and left. My daughter called me crying an hour later and I told her that she needed to get an actual therapist instead of that bitch. I wasn't upset with my daughter, but I did feel like she kind of threw me to the wolves. After cooling down though, I think maybe I could have handled that wrong, but I'm not sure. Am I the asshole for snapping at my daughter's therapist when she tried to blame my daughter's trauma on me? I'm 25 and my husband 42 have 3 children, a 2-year-old son and a set of twin girls who are 3 months old. We live just down the road from my parents. I have 4 older siblings that all went to college, but I didn't. I'm the only one with kids. All of my family got together for Christmas last year. Whenever I try to engage in a conversation with my family, they seem to just ignore me. My relatives would hold our babies but not talk to me much beyond that. I was so alone. I was late in my first pregnancy when we got married. A few of my siblings had gotten married before I did and they all had very nice weddings with lots of guests. No one had any interest in coming to mine. We trashed the idea of a wedding and got married at the courthouse. I couldn't even get all my siblings to attend the little ceremony. We couldn't go on a honeymoon at the time, so I was even more miserable. Recently, my sister told me that our family thinks that I'm just a dumb bimbo with no goals in life, so I have babies instead. She says that's why no one values my input or opinion. They think I'm stupid for having children young. My children were not planned. They also think that I'm stupid for being with a man older than me, but he's my one true love. They don't want me to have any influence over large family decisions because they think that I'm dumb. They ignore me and don't make time for me. How do I get them to take me seriously?
Just know mother-in-law announced she'll be coming over at 2, but I have a stripper pole in my living room. LOL. I'm currently at work until 2:30 and my boyfriend is home. His mother texted him that she and father-in-law will pass by at 2 and bring lunch. Boyfriend immediately texted me, all caps, babe, the stripper pole. So I'm at work laughing, imagining the absolute horror in their faces when they walk in and the first thing they see is my shiny, beautiful stripper pole. Did I mention that they are very Christian? So I texted back, fuck it. It's our house. They'll have to live with it. I will definitely update. LOL.
Wow. Yes. Fireworks.
Do we have an update or no?
Oh, yeah, we got a couple. Oh my God. I'm in my bedroom typing this right now. I got home and I opened the door. Tell me right now boyfriend is lying. Me. What? Mother-in-law. He said that he wants to be a stripper.
Yes. Yes.
My boyfriend can't contain himself and just turns red and dies of laughter. And I'm standing in my doorway, wide-eyed, confused as fuck. I just say, he's lying. I'm gonna go change. Well, anyways, I can hear her asking him why we have it, and I can hear him still laughing. LOL.
Oh.
Update. I exit my room. Mother-in-law and father-in-law are just staring at my pole. First thing out of her mouth. Quote, if you're tight on money, we can help you. You don't need to do this. It's disgusting. And boyfriend shouldn't be allowing it. Me, I'm not a stripper. We're good on money. It's good exercise. Father-in-law, then go for a run. That's a stupid exercise. There's so many other things you can do. Boyfriend, have you ever seen pole dancing competitions? It's not stripping, I swear. It's super cool. Boyfriend proceeds to go on YouTube and pulls up a video. Silence. Father-in-law, whoa, turns to me. Can you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Last update. Okay, this went a full 180 and honestly, we had a lot of fun. I did a few tricks and mother-in-law was shrieking in delight. She was so impressed. Then father-in-law, ... Quote, I can do that.
Oh, yes.
Cue father-in-law trying to pole dance and killing it, I may add.
Wow.
That shit's fucking hard, too.
So hard. Mother-in-law was looking at him like he was a snack. It was so funny. Boyfriend and father-in-law even got into a little competition on who could do the best tricks. Finally, they got ready to leave and they told us that they had a great time. I still don't trust them, but they were completely different people from the past, and we both got the feeling that they're really trying.
Oh, nice.
We're staying hopeful and cautious.
I love it. I love the way the boyfriend played it.
Am I the asshole for getting mad at my girlfriend because her period ruins our bed sheets? My girlfriend has PCOS, which from my understanding can mean she gets irregular periods, and when she gets them, they can be very heavy. She also forgets her birth control frequently, which makes her more prone to getting periods. Well, her most recent period has been going on for 3 weeks with no signs of stopping. She's non-binary and uses she, her pronouns, and having her period is something she really dislikes. When she gets her period, she always bleeds through her pad and onto her bed sheets. I've tried to be patient, but this has been going on for 5 years and it's not gotten better. And she never tries to clean it up. Am I the asshole for getting mad at my girlfriend because her period ruins our bed sheets? Out of the two of us, I'm the one who cleans, so I don't always have the time or energy to clean the sheets when period gets on them. I do my best to get the stains out, but once they're set in for a few days, there's no getting them out from my experience. When I went in bed today, I noticed a huge blood stain that had gotten over to my side of the bed. I had a bad day at work, and because of that, I snapped at her. I said I didn't want to sleep on bloody sheets and telling her to wash the sheets or change them. She cried and says that's a part of having a body that has periods and that she has no control of where the blood goes. Also that I wouldn't understand because I'm a trans woman.
Tender touch, drum glove, staying up, just to talk to you. You stayed in touch, 2 continents, through all odds. Seems every night, yeah, all the time I'm calling out to you. Seems every time I take a drink, I'm reaching out.
I, 23 male, recently got into a big fight with my older brother, 33. I'm the youngest of 5, and because of the big age gap with my older siblings, they're all 10 years older than me, I've never really had a connection with them. They always had some hard feelings for me, mainly because my parents raised me very comfortably and they didn't have that. When I was a teen, I started a business and it was successful enough for me to buy my parents a house and put my siblings into grad school. Even though I've had many efforts to connect to them and do nice things by putting them in college and using my work connections to get them better jobs, they all still seem dissatisfied and use my orientation against me. I don't mind their rudeness, I want the best for them, and thus I offered to fully pay for my brother's 33 wedding and honeymoon. Things were good for a while during the wedding preparations. I'd planned and sponsored the best wedding possible for him until one day, 2 weeks before the wedding, he suddenly called me and said that he didn't want my boyfriend at the wedding. He doesn't want to see me and my boyfriend display our feelings at his religious wedding. I, of course, got furious and said we wouldn't be bothering anyone and my boyfriend would just pretend to be a friend of mine, but he didn't accept that and said that if my boyfriend and I showed up together, he would kick us out. After the call ended, I contacted the wedding venue and planner and cancelled everything. My brother panicked and started threatening me, and after a while, he finally agreed to let me and my boyfriend be at the wedding. I disagreed and was still adamant about not paying a cent for the wedding. All of my siblings have tried to convince me to put the wedding back on, but I've blocked them all, but my parents are still very supportive of my decision. So, am I the idiot here? So, let me get this straight. You bought your parents a house, you sent all your siblings through school, and you fully sponsored your brother's wedding, all from a business that you started as a young teenager, so you're successful. But then he asks you not to bring your partner to his wedding that you paid for. Is he blind to the fact that you did so much for him? He's just an ungrateful idiot. Not the idiot. Personally, I think you should have cut them all off a long time ago. It's one thing for them to be resentful that you maybe had a more comfortable upbringing than them, and even that you're not close due to the age gap. But they're awful. Based on this, and acknowledging that you don't give a considerable amount of other contexts, it seems like your siblings are either using you for your money, or are at least very comfortable taking advantage of your generosity. Don't pay for the wedding, and don't pay for anything else after that. They've now shown their hand, and they don't deserve you. Tough one. Did the bride-to-be know? Did she know that you were paying for their wedding, and did she know about the demand your brother gave you? If she didn't know, her wedding would be ruined. She would be an innocent, and you are the idiot here. It would help if you stopped trying to buy your siblings' affection. It sounds like they tolerate you because of the help you can give them, and barely then. They will never accept you for who you are and your life choices. You should never be ashamed of or hide your love towards your partner. Not the idiot at all. It was about time for you to stand up for yourself. You cannot leave them bullying you the way they've been doing all your life, especially after what you've done for them. Every action has a consequence. Now he has to deal with what he created. He should have been extremely grateful for your offer to pay for his wedding, but no, he had to find a way to bully you even though you're helping him out. Well, too bad for him. Now he'll have to pay for everything himself. Use the money you were going to give him to buy something very nice for you or go on an amazing holiday when the time allows, and don't give in. They don't deserve you nor your generosity. I'm fighting with my ex right now over this. My young teenage son lives with me and sees his dad on weekends and summers. Over global issue for about a year plus, he lived with his dad during school days, and I guess he was doing well, as on a roll, etc. My ex claims he had to work hard to teach him good study habits and do his work because when he was at my house, he didn't. We had a custody battle over the kids, and the courts felt that because they've been in my school district their whole life, they ought to stay with me. So here we are. Well, the last 4 months, my son has been getting in trouble and per the teachers not doing his work, disrupting class, and has gotten suspended once over something dumb. He made a flamethrower out of a lighter and body spray at school with his friends. He was just a dumb teen boy and trying to impress his friends. So now he may be suspended again over something else his friend did. I didn't think his first trimester grades were bad. He started off with A's but ended up with all B's and 1 C. He currently has 2 F's and all C's this trimester, but he has all trimester to turn in his missing work. My ex has been hounding me, saying I wanted him with me, but I'm failing him as a mother. He says I need to stay on top of him more because there's only so much he can do, only seeing his son 6 days a month. He thinks he started off okay but is clearly declining and not doing his work. He told me our son's parent-teacher conference was horrible, where all 6 of his teachers were telling us our son is disruptive, his friends seem to be influencing him negatively, and he doesn't turn in work. My ex says that our son needs more parental attention than most kids, especially with schoolwork. He's mad I pulled him out of therapy despite the therapist saying our son is fine. He also says my area is bad, low income, and we need to do something about the kids he hangs out with. But our son could run into these types of kids anywhere. I have done this. I talked to my son multiple times about his schoolwork. He told me it's too much work. I said he had to do it. My ex thinks this isn't enough. When he got suspended, I took his phone away when he went to his dad's for the weekend. I gave him plenty of attention as I only work part-time. One of the kids he's friends with got expelled, so I don't think the school friends are an issue. What else is a single mum supposed to do? He's a teen. My friends tell me this isn't abnormal behaviour. However, my ex and his sisters keep telling me I'm not doing enough, and I was an idiot for insisting the kids stay with me, despite our son doing really well at his dad's. You are the idiot. Obviously, what you're doing isn't working since he's failing, getting suspended, and being disruptive to the point that multiple teachers are involved. How do you think this is normal? How do you genuinely not see that you're failing as a parent? Is this a joke? Your child's friend got expelled, and you don't think there's a problem with who he hangs out with? It seems like your ex should have custody. You are the idiot currently. While the teenage years are tough and his rebellious acts aren't the material of epic failure, the fact is a formula was found where the kid stayed out of trouble and was doing school successfully. If dad is willing and able to take him back, send him post-haste. It sounds like his chosen friends may be part of the issue as well, but a fresh start and dad's stricter household rules may be what he needs. I was on the fence for a bit, but when your sister agrees you're the problem, you need to look in the mirror. Not the idiot. You should give him extra candy and video games when he builds flamethrowers in school because it shows creativity and initiative. I think it's bizarre that his dad isn't happy about F's. F's come after A in the alphabet, so obviously an F is better. Dad needs to chill out and get with the times. I'm nearly adult and I have 2 older sisters and 1 younger brother and sister. My sister has recently had a baby and was having trouble keeping her house tidy as a single mother. So I stayed with her for a week and she said she could give me money for my driver's license if I cleaned her kitchen for her. There were no dishes left clean and she avoided going in there. I agreed, even though it would have taken me an entire day to get it properly clean because there was trash everywhere, even with flies. I did it and the kitchen was sparkling clean, even the microwave and fridge. After I went back home, I didn't mention it for a while because she was still new to being a mom, but 2 of my friends got their licenses. I brought it up to her and she said she didn't remember telling me that and that she couldn't afford it right now with the baby, so I left it alone for a while. I asked her again the other day and she said point blank that she never said that. But she did, because even though I loved them both, I wasn't cleaning that mess for nothing. I mentioned it to my mother and she said not to lie about stuff like this when my sister had just given birth. This was 3 months after she said about it and 4 after she'd given birth. I had most of the money saved, but I needed a bit extra to have enough. I told my mother about everything that happened and she said to leave it alone. This is not the first time my older sister has promised me things and reneged. Theatre visits, sleep overnights, bike rides, loads more. I guess I just wanted to believe her. My mother has always taken her side. I had enough and explained everything to my dad because no one was listening to me. He told me to move in with him and I agreed. When I told my mom, she broke down, saying that she didn't favour my sister over any of us and needed me here to watch my younger brother when she was at work. For instance, my eldest sister got pregnant at 21 and she was ecstatic. My other sister got pregnant now at 21 and my mother is angry at her. I told her I wouldn't be staying and needed some time to cool off and pack some clothes. My siblings won't talk to me, not my pregnant sister, and blame me for upsetting my mom, calling me the idiot. Not the idiot. Jesus, your mom isn't even trying to hide her intentions. She doesn't want you back because she loves you. She wants you back because she needs you. If you go back, you're never getting out of there. You are not the family's go-to cleaner, an unpaid babysitter. It sounds like a chaotic household, but you didn't create the drama, and you aren't responsible for managing it. Go live your own life, OP, and enjoy your young adulthood. Your family sure is comfortable using you as a free cleaning service and childcare without doing much to return the favour, aren't they? You weren't born to help clean up other people's messes, and no one should treat you as if you were family, least of all. Stay at your dad's. Then you should be able to enjoy what little remains of your childhood. Graduate, seek out higher education. Your mom's mistakes and your older sister's mistakes don't have to be your mistakes. You're not doomed to follow in their footsteps if you don't want to. OP, everyone except you and your dad is an idiot. Now you've learned your lesson, I hope. Don't help your sister again since it's clear that she's an irresponsible person and a flat-out liar. Your mother can pay someone to watch your younger brother. If she claims she will pay you, make sure you get the money first. If your siblings are siding with your mother, it's not worth talking to them anyway. My wife and I have 2 amazing kids. Kelsey is a teen and Jace is a young teen. About 18 years ago, my wife and mother got into a huge fight. It got vicious to the point there was no coming back from it. Finally, my mother pretty much said to my face that she hated my wife more than she loved me, and she wanted nothing to do with this, and if she ever met our future kids, they better call her by her first name. We consider ourselves no contact with her, but at the same time, if there's a family event we want to attend, we do. My mom isn't the type to start drama at all, and she's very stubborn, so if she says you are dead to her, you are dead to her. My kids are close to certain family members, and when my mom comes to family stuff, she hangs out with the people she's close to, and there's no overlap since our fight caused a pretty big rift. Certain people don't talk to me, certain people don't talk to her, and we have never had an issue. My kids know her first name, but just never thought much of her. Kelsey is an amazingly talented artist and wants to pursue it as a career. My mom is a professional artist, so maybe it's genetic. But Kelsey recently talked about art schools and her future. A family mentioned that Evelyn, the only name she knows my mother by, went to one of the best art schools in the country and did a semester in France, and Kelsey should talk to her. Kelsey said that sounds cool, but she's never talked to Evelyn before and it would be awkward. So this family member, not someone either of us is close to, is like, wait, but you know she is your grandmother, right? Kelsey immediately looked at me and I confirmed that she is their grandmother. When we got home, I explained everything to Kelsey and Jace and told them that she is their grandmother, that another relative they vaguely know is my bio sister, and I gave them more details about the falling out. Kelsey accused me of lying to her and said she should have been given the option to know my mom. I explained that there's no real way to go about that because we certainly weren't going to hand over our young children to a woman we were not on speaking terms with, and neither party was willing to be around the other one. Kelsey has since looked my mom and sister up online. Now, I know this sounds kind of bad, but my mom's life looks pretty cool from the outside. She and my stepdad have money, travel a lot, and she has Kelsey's dream job. So now Kelsey feels like they could have had a great relationship. And Jace made some comments about she looks fun and would have been a fun grandmother. Kelsey thinks I'm the idiot for lying. I feel I didn't lie, it just didn't come up. Not the idiot. Your mother flat out told you she wanted nothing to do with you or your kids. She's met them. She could have discussed having a relationship with them with you at any time. She obviously hasn't changed her mind. I do feel bad for your kids, though. They got the short end of the stick all the way round. You were protecting them. Holy cow, that's intense. Do you know why she dislikes your wife so much? Was your mother difficult to deal with? This is not likely to be resolved quickly. Kelsey may try to contact her outside of you eventually, so be prepared for that if it happens. On the other hand, your mum might continue her stance and perspective. They never really liked each other, and then my mom wanted to bring a +1 to the wedding. My wife said no. The worst part is that the man my mom wanted to bring is her now husband. He wasn't her partner at the time, they'd been hanging out for 3 weeks. When my wife said no, my mom refused to speak to me for weeks, and finally they ended up in the same room and screamed at each other for over an hour. Multiple people tried to defuse it, but neither could be reasoned with. They both said awful things to the point of no return. They both went really low. After that night, my grandfather never spoke to me again. My father-in-law lost his best friend, and my mom and sister weren't at my wedding. So, if I'm fully understanding, your wife started a fight with your mother, leading to both sides saying regrettable things. They screamed at each other for over an hour, and you, what, got the popcorn and sat back and watched? Good job, fella. Following which you lied by omission to your children their entire lives? Yeah, you've not handled this brilliantly, have you? My boyfriend, 27, and I, 21 female, have been together about 2 years and recently moved into a one-bedroom apartment together. It's been working well. He works away Wednesday to Saturday, so I get my own space. One of my best friends, 22 female, texted me yesterday asking desperately if she could stay with me because she'd had a huge fight with her dad. Her dad's an alcoholic, and things can get quite bad if he's had a drink and is in a fight. I said of course she was more than welcome, and she came over about 10 p.m. after she finished work. My boyfriend at this point had already left for work, which is about 3 hours away. I texted my boyfriend about an hour after she got here just to let him know, and he said I should have asked him first because he barely knows her and she could steal from him, which is absurd. Since I was a kid, she's been one of my best friends and just needed a place to stay. He then said she could stay as long as she slept in the living room, to which I said no to because he isn't there and our couch isn't comfy to sleep on. He's hardly talking to me and saying I'm disrespecting him, but I don't think I did anything wrong. Worth mentioning that we share all expenses equally. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. She's staying at your place, sure, but it's also his place. He hardly knows her. I've known someone for years who ended up stealing from me, so your boyfriend is valid for thinking that. You have a good reason, though. Your friend's dad's awful, so she should stay somewhere for the night. But in your and boyfriend's bed? Really? You are the idiot. You let your friend sleep in the bed that you and your boyfriend share. This crosses all kinds of boundaries. I would be furious. You're not wrong for wanting to help a friend in need. I think after the initial shock, your boyfriend was nice enough to compromise and say the couch was fine. But then you let your friend sleep in the bed you share with him that's just as much yours as it is his. That's problematic. This took a minor annoyance and escalated it to a violation. Not the idiot. If I had a friend who was in physical danger and my boyfriend was kicking up a fuss about it staying over, I would be pretty peeved at his priorities, I won't lie. Also, as a one-off, offering a comfortable shared space after a potentially traumatic evening, rather than an uncomfortable sofa, would be a no-brainer for me too. It's not setting out to be deliberately disrespectful to boyfriend, but looking at immediate priorities. Maybe invest in a small blow-up mattress or something for future use now that you know how the boyfriend feels about his space.